What's up, Game Devs? T-Chan here, and welcome to episode 23 of Game Dev Lowdown, where I chat with the best people in the game industry 7 days a week. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast for a new daily episode filled with inspiring stories. And now, today's featured guest is Trish Rigdon. So real quick, I want to go ahead and start off by saying that this episode is a bit of a pivot. Trish has been working in media arts for years and have recently decided to join the game industry at the Art Institute of Houston. So the question today will be a bit different to get her perspective on how her expertise is connected to gaming. So go ahead, Trish, give us a bit about your personal life and how you got started in the game industry.
You said, how did you get started in the game industry? It's because I came to the Art Institute as the chair of media arts, after having served as the executive director at Houston Cinema Arts Society, where I ran the largest film festival in Houston. And before that, I was the director of theater at Rice University. And I work freelance as both a director and a designer in film and theater. So that's one area of my expertise. But you might say that I started in a game by playing game way back, and there was nothing to do but Pong and Pac-Man.
So is that like your first experience with games then?
First experience with game, and I have to say, I thought it was kind of boring, so I didn't embrace it. My next experience with film was when my daughter was young, and then it was all Super Mario Brothers, and to this day, I could probably hum that tune in my head. Yeah, because she played so much of it. So again, I wasn't all that engaged with game. And then when I came to the Art Institute and I had an opportunity to see some of the work of the students and how cinematic it was and what good stories they were telling along with their game, I was just so impressed. And now I'm very excited about the world of game art.
What was the latest game that you saw that just like got you really excited about how art and game could form?
The other interesting thing is that the game industry and the film industry are somewhat merging. So a lot of the things that you do in film are the same things that are being done in game to develop these games.
And if people had to teach themselves that skill, what resources would you recommend they use?
I would say that there's two resources that I think are pretty stellar for teaching themselves, and one of those is lynda.com. All of the software that we use in film, Adobe Premiere, Final Draft to write scripts, Adobe Premiere to edit, After Effects for special effects, and motion graphics. All of that is easy to learn through lynda.com. It's one of my favorite resources. The other resource would be a website called No Film School. It's sort of after film school, when there's no more film school, this is how you keep up with what's going on. And they have, they'll keep you informed. They run lots of workshops and lots of tutorials on that website. And then for those students, for those folks who never got to go to film school, it's an excellent resource. And
how do you think filming can enhance the gaming experience? What do you see filming taking gaming to the next level?
Well, the cinematic quality of the games, it's clear to me, has been influenced by watching film. And, the whole world of cartoons and comic books, Marvel comic books and so forth, those becoming live action in film, I think has informed the way that game looks today. And as the software tools become more sophisticated in 3D modeling and ZBrush and all the different, things you can do with game today, the game itself is becoming more, the characters are becoming more interesting and more lifelike, and they're able to move in a more lifelike kind of way. Think about it. Back in the Super Mario Brothers days, they just kind of hopped around, right?
Yeah.
Now they can practically be an avatar in real time and reach out and grab things. I mean, they're so rigged that they look and feel real.
Have you got the chance to try out virtual reality yet?
Oh, I have, yes. As a matter of fact, when I was at Houston Cinema Arts Society, the film industry was pushing the virtual reality envelope. And so I was able to work with virtual reality artists in that realm and got to experience a lot of that. And then we had a student this last quarter, not this quarter, but this last quarter, just graduated, who did all of his work in animation in virtual reality.
Oh, wow.
And and so, his final project, we had to put on the glasses, and as we walked forward, we had a joystick to use, and as we walked forward or used the joystick or turned around, we were experiencing the three-dimensional world that he had created through animation as if it were real in virtual reality. It was fabulous. He was best of show at the portfolio show last quarter.
Yeah, I see VR taking off in a few more years. Right now, it's slowly hitting mainstream, but in a few years, I think it's going to take off really big.
Right, and I think it's going to affect game. It's going to affect film. It's going to affect it's going to affect the way we experience places we've never been.
Oh yeah. So, what are your key principles for great film art? Like, what makes a film high quality, or what makes it great?
So, you mean visually?
Yes.
Okay. Lighting. Sound. If your sound is crisp and clean, if the lighting is realistic, if the textures and the material is realistic, it's going to have that more cinematic quality to it. Color too. I mean, a game artist who has a good sense of color fundamentals and how colors work together to either draw your attention to something or away from something, or to make you feel good or to make you feel uncomfortable. Color can do all of that.
And it's funny you mentioned like artists, because I've been interviewing a few artists now, and they tell me that like special effects or just the visual look plays a huge part in how a game looks. And it even acts like a mechanic to the game. So if you see like an object shining, that means that it's something that you can interact with or something in the game. So art definitely plays a huge role.
Right. And those are elements, lighting, color, and even line, your choice of line. All of that is going to guide the viewer to where to look. So if everything is equal and you don't feature anything in any way, the viewer or the player doesn't know where to look. So you can either draw your player in or leave your player lost just by the way you treat the visuals.
So what do you think are the most common mistakes, even at a pro level, that people make when designing cinematic or visual looks?
Attention to detail, assuming that close is good enough. Every detail counts. They say the devil's in the details. Well, it absolutely isn't. Yeah. Attention to detail is the biggest mistake.
Oh man, attention to detail. And players look out for that. Players are really fond of when developers put in a lot of detail to certain characters or certain artwork. So that's definitely something that artists should pay attention to.
It makes it feel more real. It makes it feel like you're really there. Continuity too. If you lose your continuity of what your character looks like or what's been important or what's been emphasized throughout the game, it's like, okay, but it's not great, right?
Yeah, and like I say, players would definitely appreciate that and to become more of a fan as well. What do you think is like the best investment someone can make if they're on the path to cinematic or visual effects? Maybe go to school or, like you say, take Linda classes, but like what's like the greatest investment they can make?
Well, I've been in, after having served as the director of theater at Rice University, and I've taught in theater and film for over 20 years, and now being the chair of the media arts department, I definitely believe in the education because, I can't speak for every university and every school, but I know that the instructors here are coming from the professional world. Mm. They know what they're doing. In other words, it's not theory to them. This is real life. This is what they do. And they don't teach for the money. I promise you that. They teach for the love of teaching, the love of bringing new people into the industry, and the desire to create a workforce that they are then going to be able to draw from and hire from.
Definitely. And what is like the one thing you're most excited about today in terms of the game industry?
In terms of the gaming industry, well, I have to say it's probably the fact that the Texas Motion Picture Alliance is embraced the game industry along with film in promoting or lobbying our Texas legislature for incentives to create work here in our state. So, in other words, game developers can actually apply for a percentage of their funding to be returned to them by the state just for developing everything here in Texas. And so Texas Motion Picture Alliance is our lobbyist who stay on top of the legislature and making sure they understand the number of jobs it can provide, how it contributes to the economy, and the importance of it as a business here for the state. So, I think everybody should join TXMPA. I think a basic membership is only $25, but that money goes directly into helping to lobby the Texas legislature to ensure that we have a future in game.
And that's incredible because I actually didn't know about this, and we are actually trying to grow the Houston community in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Because for some reason gaming is not big here, but it's big in Austin and Dallas. But we have a lot of developers here that just wants to stay here and keep developing here. And having something like the Texas Motion Picture Alliance, that's a great way for us to keep building out gaming companies here and getting that incentives and getting a lot of return. So there's not like a lot of risk in it if it comes to that. Can you tell us more about this Texas Motion Picture Alliance, like how it got formed or what's its goal behind it?
The goal is pretty simple. The goal is to ensure the future of the incentives for film and game art. As far as the history of it is concerned, I mean, I'm not that well versed in the total history of it, but it's an easy way to find out is at txmpa.org. That's simple. They have a pretty dynamic website, and you'll find out their history, how they work with game, how they work with film, and then more importantly, what you as an individual can do to help. Every year the TXMPA has a day where people come from all over the state to work together to actually go and visit the representatives and senators in their offices to explain to them why this is important.
Ooh, yes, I would definitely link that up. Thanks for letting us know. So yeah, we are trying to actually build it up out here, so that's really good. Awesome. Now we have reached halfway through our episode, and this is what I like to call crunch time. I'm pretty sure you heard of crunch time, right? For the game developers out there. So this is this is what they dread the most, but we are here to crush it. So Trish, are you ready to crush and release this show?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So now you just started the game industry. Now you just barely joined the game industry. What do you think was holding you back from actually becoming a game developer all this time?
Well, because my interests are not in developing the games. My interests have been in other areas for quite some time. That was the only thing holding me back. But what's interesting about that is part of what I do. I told you I was a designer. Well, I'm a costume designer, and I use software. As soon as software was available to draw with instead of pencil and paper, I started using software to draw with, Corel Painter, Adobe Photoshop, and all of that. And I've noticed a direct correlation with some of the software that game artists are using. And I'm like, okay, I'd like to learn all of that new software. Well, yeah, so it all looks pretty exciting. So I don't know if it was so much holding me back as it was just opportunity and timing. If things were like they are now, when I was younger, I would have gone in that direction. But at the same time, not this quarter, but next quarter, I'm going to be teaching a class in costume design for film and game and animation and fashion designers.
what's great is like most softwares are free now to use. Like there's like a lot of editing software that's free to use to draw or program. And, people just need to go out there and just start drawing and start programming and, just make something happen.
Yep, I agree. And I love learning new software, so I'm all about the software. I'm a geek in that way.
That's awesome to hear. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, don't burn bridges. No matter how badly you feel like you were treated, stay professional. You can always decide you never want to work with that person again. But in the meantime, you don't know who that person knows or where you were going to interconnect in the future. So no matter what, stay professional. Don't burn bridges.
Yeah, I love that advice. And it's so important because you got to keep that network. And especially you've been working with that person for so many years, you just don't want to end it off in a bad note like that.
Right.
What's a personal habit that contributes to your success?
Staying organized. I tend to be involved in so many things at the same time. I'm the president of Women in Film and Television in addition to being the chair of the Media Arts Department here, and I serve on the board of Southwest Alternate Media Projects, and I'm finishing up a short film of my own, and, you have to stay organized to get anything done at all. So I do that in various different ways. I'm a very visual person. So if you could see my office right now, you'd see that I have this great big huge dry erase board that's magnetic. And I keep all my scheduling for classes up on there. And I keep all of my, do you know what a Kanban board is? It's a Japanese organization system where you organize what you've got going and what's left to do and what you've finished, that type of thing. So I have to stay organized, and I color code everything.
Well, what's that board called again?
It's Kanban, Kanban. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite tools is Pinterest, and if you go to Pinterest, where you will find an amazing number of resources. If you search for Kanban, you'll find lots of different folks use it in lots of different ways. It's a Japanese organization system for productivity.
Ooh, yes, we need that. How has a failure set you up for later success?
I always thought I was going to be a costume designer in theater, and it didn't work out the way I thought it would. And again, it was timing. It wasn't necessarily me. I was working freelance when the economy got really bad and theaters across the nation were no longer bringing in outside designers to work. They just didn't have the money for flights and housing and all that kind of stuff. And I think that probably led to me entering into the world of film, and which led to the executive director position at the Houston Cinema Art Society. And it was through that the Art Institute found me, because I didn't apply for this job. They found me and asked me to come. So I think that by not getting something the way I thought I was going to get it, and following the journey and trusting that things would work out is how I wound up where I am.
Interesting. And that's true. Things just change over time, and your passion just changed over time, or something happened in your life that it just changes things altogether. So it's just important to keep treading on and just don't stop.
Hey, don't stop. Trust the journey.
Mm-hmm. Now, this next question is a bit of a doozy, and you have a ton of experience, so your knowledge would be really good at this one. Imagine you woke up the next morning in a brand new world and you knew no one. You still have all the experience and knowledge you currently have today. Your food and shelter is taken care of, and you have a laptop. What would you do step by step on the path to become a successful career?
Wow. So I have a laptop.
Mm-hmm. And your food and shelter is taken care of.
The first thing I would do honestly, the first thing I'd do is go and buy software for script writing, Final Draft. And I would start writing the script I've always wanted to get into. The next thing I would do is start looking for, because remember, my main background is film, right? So I would start looking for connections in this new world. to film, and hopefully in this new world film exists because I love it. But I think it would, because at the bottom of our hearts, we're all storytellers.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I would start building a network. Finding out, where do I meet people? Where do I go to network with people? How do I find my tribe? So where is the tribe now? Who's doing what I want to do? That's the first thing I would do. Yeah. And then I would just keep creating the work. Wouldn't wait for the work to find me. I would start creating the work.
There you go. Go network and just keep creating. Awesome advice. Now go ahead. We have reached the end, so it's been a pleasure. Go ahead and give a parting piece of guidance in how we can connect with you.
To connect with me is through email. My email address at the Art Institute is P for Patricia. I go by Trish, but that's my legal name, Patricia. Rigdon, Prigdon, @aii.edu. A parting piece of advice, stay organized, use software to its best advantage, stay synced up. I live by my iCalendar. I have my iCalendar synced to my phone, to my iPad, to two of my iPads, to my computer at work, to my computer at home. There's just no excuse for not knowing where you're supposed to be and when you're supposed to be there.
Oh, you're so on point with that. So on point.
I think the game industry has nowhere to go but up. I think it's going to take over everything.
Awesome, Trish. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, Game Does.
For having me.
Yeah, thank you. And we are truly grateful. So we look forward to your work. And until then, we will catch you next time.
All right.
Thank you, Game Devs, for listening. And remember that knowledge is only potential power. Execution is the game. Go check out my website for all the resources and past guests. You can also send me an email to tony@gamedevloadout.com. I would love to hear your feedback. Until then, keep making games. T-Chan out.